Okay, this video is about the International Residential Stair Code, specifically stairway codes and guard codes, and how to pass your stairway inspection. You want to remember to always check with your local AHJ authority having jurisdiction and your local and state codes. Today's references are from the 2021 IRC International Residential Code. Okay, 311.7.1 tells us that the stairway has to be above the permitted handrail, not less than 36 inches in width. Now at and below the handrail, it can't be less than 31.5 inches with one handrail, and if there's two handrails, it can't be less than 27 inches. The minimum headroom required is 6 feet 8 inches from the slope of the ceiling to the nosing or the landing. So it's a perpendicular line from the nosing of the stair to the slope of the ceiling coming down. 6 feet 8 inches is the minimum that it can be. The maximum vertical rise between flights of stairs is 12 feet 7 inches. So greater than 12 feet 7 inches, you have to have a landing and start your next flight of stairs. Now the maximum riser height of the stairs is 7 3/4 inches, and that's measured vertically from the tread below to the tread above. 7 3/4 is the max, and there can't be more than a 3/8 inch difference between the highest and the lowest. So in this example, if you had a rise of 7 3/4, and so that was your greatest rise, 7 3/4, and your smallest rise was 7 3/8, and let's say 7 5/8 in between, then that would meet the requirement. You'd only have a 3/8 inch difference. Also, 311.7.6 of the IRC states that there has to be a landing at the top of the stairs and at the bottom of the stairs, and the width of that landing has to be at least the width of the stairs in the direction of travel. If you have 4 or more risers, then you're required to have a graspable handrail, and at least that graspable handrail has to be at least on one side of the stairs. Handrail height is measured from the nose of the tread to the top of the handrail, and it has to be a minimum of 34 inches and a maximum of 38 inches. The handrail cannot project more than 4.5 inches away from the wall on either side of the stairway. And where it returns, it has to have a minimum of 1.5 inches clearance so that you can get your hand in there. So from the wall to the handrail, it has to have a minimum of 1.5 inches clearance. The handrails have to return to a newel post, and they have to start at the highest riser and end at the lowest riser. And there has to be continuity in the handrail. It can be broken by a landing and then start up again for another flight of stairs. But if it's one flight of stairs, it has to be continuity from top to bottom, above highest riser and stopping at the lowest riser. And as I mentioned, the handrail has to be graspable. So there's a couple of type 1 examples up here. If it's circular, it has to be a minimum of 1.25 inches and a maximum of 2 inches. If it's shaped like kind of a mushroom, it has to be a maximum of 2.25 on a diagonal. If it's non-circular, it can be a maximum of 6.25 inches and a minimum of 4 inches. And then there's an example of a metal handrail that has to be a maximum of 2.25 inches wide. Now with this example, this is a type 2 example. And if the perimeter is greater than 6.25 inches, then you have to have finger recesses. And this pretty much lays out how the finger recesses would be. The maximum width at the top would be 1.25 inches to 2 3/4. And then it shows you that as you step down or someone puts their hand on it, there has to be recesses. And it gives you the measurements at 3/4, 7/8, less than or equal to 7/8, greater than or equal to 3/8, and greater than or equal to 5/16 in order to have like a finger recess area in a type 2 type of a graspable handrail. 312 of the IRC talks about guards. Anything that 30 inches above grade is going to require a guard, whether that be a deck guard or that be some type of a guard for stairs. 4 or more risers, you're going to need a graspable handrail, so you're going to need a guard anyway, which would put you above the 30 inches. But the IRC states that anything at 30 inches or higher requires a guard. Now the typical guard that you'd find on a deck has to be a minimum of 36 inches from the surface of the deck to the top of the guard. If the top of the guard on a stairway is serving also as the graspable handrail, it has to be a minimum of 34 inches and a maximum of 38 inches, same as it would be for a handrail itself. So where that's serving as the handrail, it has to meet the same requirements that you find in a handrail, 34 minimum, 38 maximum from the nosing to the top of the handrail. Any openings in the guard itself cannot be greater than 4 inches, so you cannot pass a 4-inch sphere through any openings in the guard or any openings under the guard or to the side of the guard. So it has to be less than 4 inches. You can't pass a 4-inch sphere into that opening. So that 4-inch sphere that can't pass through a standard guard, they make it a little bit larger, and they say you shall not be able to pass a 4 3/8-inch sphere through a stairway guard. And then also that triangular opening that's formed by the bottom of the stairway guard, the code says that you shall not be able to pass a 6-inch sphere through that opening. Okay, to sum it up with this slide that I have up now, the maximum rise is 7 3/4 inches according to the IRC. And again, check with your local and state codes on this because some states might be different. 7 3/4 is the maximum rise, and there can't be more than a 3/8 inch difference between the highest and the lowest rise. The tread, the minimum tread width is 10 inches. And again, that 3/8 inch difference comes into play there. There can't be a greater than 3/8 inch difference between the widest and the narrowest of that tread. The ceiling height, or that angle coming down, the minimum is 6 feet 8 inches. So from the nosing of the tread to that ceiling coming down, it has to have a minimum of 6 feet 8 inches head clearance room. As far as the nosing on the tread has to be a minimum, if it's a 10-inch tread, a minimum of 3/4 of an inch and a maximum of 1 1/4 inches. The handrail has to return to a newel post or return to the wall. It's got to be a minimum of 1.5 inches from the wall and a maximum of 4.5 inches from the wall on either side of the stairwell. The height of the handrail is a minimum of 34 inches from the nosing of the stair to the top of the handrail and a maximum of 38 inches. The handrail has to be continuous, and it has to start above the first riser at the landing or above the first riser. Again, it has to return to a newel post or the wall, and it has to end above the last riser. And it has to have continuity. So it can be broken by a landing, but if it's a flight of stairs, there has to be continuity from the top to the bottom. So those are the code sections. Those are the codes that we look at as inspectors to see if it meets the IRC requirements for stairways, for guards, for graspable handrails. So I hope this helps you pass your next inspection. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up and remember to subscribe. And also, if there's other videos that you'd like to see, please put that in the comments. And thanks for watching.